We are live. This is the market update. Bitcoin 48K. Bitcoin 84K. European Central Bank triggers a bigger crisis. Want to know more? Stay right here. If you need a roadmap in crypto, subscribe to this channel. Turn on alerts so you know when we're going live. And if the content works for you, hit the like button. Over on TikTok, I had 206,000 views on a piece that questioned why Wells Fargo needs to raise or file papers to raise $9 billion. I'm going to officially say this, and then we're just going to go into the news. This is the most bizarre, scariest thing I've ever seen. Like I said, it was in 2008, and I was like, well, it's not as bad. Actually, I think it's way worse for legacy and way better for crypto and way better for gold. Now, that sounds boring, but what could go on here in Bitcoin is something that every altcoin trader better start paying attention to right now. Right now. Okay. Let's welcome who's on the stream. Don't ask 6. Time to buy alts or wait another week. I will give you a very clear answer, not answer to that question. Rugby Performance Labs, Richard, Bubba thinks I'm out of my mind with my ChatGPT research about 84K Bitcoin. Understandable. Robin is here. Okay, Amy, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Megan, what's up? Bull Runner, T-Bit from Prince Edward Island, Canada. Welcome. K-Real, feeling bullish. Okay. Amy is here. Welcome. Baby Well, are we live? Yes, we are. We are. Okay, Crypto to Cash, Lightning Speed, Bypass Barry from the Netherlands. Paco is here. You are not late. You are not too late. You are not too early. You are right on time. Willimeter is here from East Tennessee. UFO Nut. Legacy on fire. When you see the Gann astrology work today, you're going to think that, that Bill's been kidnapped by a UFO and an alien has been put in his place. But I am down with my Gann astrology work today. Okay. Telmo is excited for the Arbitrum airdrop. Driftless is in. Okay. JG is here. Chris from Omaha. Q Boyd from New Zealand. Hopefully you are okay. I hear they have seismic activity there. Ahmed from Nigeria. Okay. Megan wants to know what's in my long-term portfolio. Well, I have Bitcoin and 2 altcoins from the place I work at, Emerging Asset Group. That is my long-term portfolio. I have recently consolidated that to include canned food and water. Listening to WendyO today, just in case you think I'm out of my mind, WendyO just stocked up on food. So I watch her show before I come on mine. WendyO, long food. That should tell you something. Sleazy in the house. Steve J, welcome. Slacky, Farmer Sam Forrest from Budapest. The Fuzz Crypto. Okay, news. What's news now may not be news in a couple of hours, but we'll do it anyway. Credit Suisse shares soar, and then, as I understand it, fail after the bank secures a $54 billion lifeline from the Swiss central bank. Guess what, folks? I've been through this in 2008 before. Let's see. We'll get big banks to acquire the small banks. I've heard that. Oh, we'll give you an emergency loan. These guys aren't done. People inside Credit Suisse were crying and having emotional meltdowns. Okay. This is Not funny. This place goes down. This place goes down. You're going to have a crisis. We haven't even talked about stuff like the Japanese banks, Chinese commercial real estate. The ripple effect of Credit Suisse will be unbelievable. And in my opinion, they may not be able to be saved. ECB told ministers that some EU banks may be vulnerable on rates. Wait, what? What? You mean raising interest rates at a rapid fire pace blew up banks? You don't say. Listen to this. Bloomberg. The Fed needs to keep hiking despite Silicon Valley turmoil. Hey, people, let's start off with this. Whatever is going on here is not about Silicon Valley Bank. That's what everybody in the media and TikTok wants you to think. Oh, they screwed up on interest rate management. Oh, yeah, they did this. They did that. Yes, they did all those things, right? Including the Federal Reserve of San Francisco being prioritized with HR-related items versus bank regulation. This is not about Silicon Valley Bank. This is about $17 trillion in uninsured deposits in American banks that have got a finger on a hair trigger for a run on the banks or a mass movement into the bigger banks, which I think is also a trap. So absolutely, let's hike rates. Let's make credit tighter. They raise rates. They give everybody an incentive to run from bank deposits into short-term treasury bonds. What? So we have depositors with their finger on the GTFO button, and we're going to give them an incentive to run into short-term treasuries and out of banks. You know, this is what you get for reading like, you know, a B+ journalism major about economics, and a major reason to tune into the market update and smash the like button. Fed says real-time payment service to launch in July. How convenient that the whole banking sector is basically getting folded up and nationalized in time for FedCoin. It's hard not to be a conspiracy theorist about this. Just a reminder that the Chinese character for crisis is a combination of the characters for danger and opportunity. Yes, I know we're not talking about China, but make no mistake about it. They are using this as an opportunity to nationalize part of the banking system and try to replace crypto with CBDCs. Good luck with that, because we're about to find out what's going to happen to Bitcoin, because these guys are not fooling anybody. They're not fooling anybody. Gensler suggests proof of stake tokens are securities. The primary job of government is to protect the people. How are the people doing these days? Like this thing with the banks, with the San Francisco Fed, okay, and Gensler, and then, you know, they reorganize one of the crypto banks and they say you can no longer participate in crypto anymore. People, all they're doing is making crypto people believe in crypto more. Meanwhile, the world is laughing at them because massive amounts of money from both U.S. retail and high net worth depositors, plus pension fund money, literally has to be invested in Bitcoin and gold and anything that will move along with it. Senator Warren says the Fed chair has to rescue himself from reviewing regulatory failures. Jerome Powell called for a thorough, transparent, and swift review of the Federal Reserve's supervision and regulation activities following Silicon Valley Bank's disclosure. So the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, you know, they kind of had their head up there, you know what, on this. That really isn't a shock, to be honest, right? Just reaffirms what is sadly happening in San Francisco at multiple levels. Now, you're going to find this unbelievable, but this could actually be a case where Senator Warren is right, that Powell's got to explain all this. They have a regulatory failure. They raised rates like madmen. Not just they raised rates like madmen, but they talked super hawkish and scared everybody. See, that's where Powell screwed up. He thought there was a connection between what Paul Volcker did in the 80s, where he said, quote, money supply is out of control. And every time, Paul Volcker stepped up to the mic and just tested it, the bond market went down and rates went up. He tried to be his hero and get all tough when he just could have orderly raised rates in an orderly fashion. So when they talk tough, they scared everybody. And when you scare everybody, you break markets. You break markets. Anybody on the show, longtime viewers, by the way, thank you for that. Anybody remember me saying that they're going to hike rates until they break things? And they may think they want to break things because of inflation, but be careful what you wish for. The Fed has to rescue itself. More on that later. BlackRock CEO touts tokenization, warns U.S. is lagging in innovation. Again, another guy that you normally don't agree with is right. Basically, this guy is telling you with this news article that there's a liquidity problem in the system. Real estate isn't liquid. Venture capital investments are not liquid, right? Certain types of fixed income certain types of fixed income and certain types of loans are not liquid. They got to be tokenized. Things like Avalanche, Polymesh. When are we going to have security tokens? You are about to witness what happens when you have a liquidity problem. Silicon Valley was a liquidity problem. Yeah, it was a Charlie Foxtrot at multiple levels, but it blew up because they mismanaged or could not get liquidity. And BlackRock is telling you that if we come down too hard on crypto, we're going to be inhibiting liquidity. Tether's stablecoin market cap now double USDC after Silicon Valley Bank chaos. This just goes to show that you don't know everything, right? Tether became a safe haven. That's funny. That's funny. No such thing as a safe stablecoin. Okay. Tether owns treasuries. That's nice. What's the value of those treasuries if they have to raise capital? Not hating on Tether, but people spent so much time hating on Tether and Binance that they missed the USDC mini debacle. Again, the herd is never right. ChatGPT GPT-4 aces the bar SATs and can identify exploits in Ethereum contracts and crack the mysterious code of William Gann. More on that later. More on that later and its implications for crypto. Crypto acted as a safe haven amid Silicon Valley's signature bank run, according to Cathie Wood. Exactly. Cathie Wood has been hoovering up Coinbase stock and been getting ridiculed for it. What is going to happen when the entire planet has to buy Bitcoin and the only place that's going to be allowed to have fiat on-ramps, or so we hope, is Coinbase? Everyone's got to buy Bitcoin. I did something with Crypto Love, and he's got something now at the start of his shows that says if you don't have Bitcoin now, you're a moron. I stand by that. It's not investment advice. I'm just saying, if you don't have or you're not thinking about having some sort of digital asset outside the legacy banking system right now, they're crazy. And a lot of people are like, oh, 24,000, I missed it. All right, well, yeah, you missed the Bitcoin rally from 66 cents in 2011, but who cares? I mean, you're basically buying Bitcoin, I don't know, more or less at the 200-week moving average. I have to look to see where that is. That was the one thing I forgot to do. Too busy doing GAN. Point is, the 2017 high was 20K. So at 25K, what have you missed? Nothing. Particularly if like 10% of the $17 trillion in US bank deposits needs to find a home in Bitcoin. This is a massively underreported number. Everyone's concerned on a run on the banks. I'm doing this show because I'm concerned about a run on Bitcoin. That's what I'm concerned about. It's like, okay, we're doing a crypto show. Okay, that's what we're doing a crypto show about. Arbitrum to airdrop new token as it transitions to a DAO. So super exciting. People who got in on the alternative layer 2 blockchain story early with optimism and Arbitrum getting rewarded with an airdrop. Now, this is cool. I'm sure everybody's going to FOMO into Arbitrum the way they were FOMOing into Optimism and providing a liquidity event for everyone to exit, right? You always have to be careful about FOMO in altcoins, right? Especially with the market in a precarious situation. If you FOMO into stuff like this, right? Like I know guys who were talking about this a year and a half ago. They are selling to you if you FOMO in. U.S. banking crisis could strengthen crypto long term. Yep. FDIC asked signature bank buyers to stop all crypto business. Okay. You know, when the FDIC runs out of money, we'll see how, we'll see how well that's going. I hope all our friends in New Zealand are okay. That's a pretty big earthquake and par for the course with solar eclipses, which I have been talking about incessantly on this show. Now, let's switch over to some TA. Okay, so before we get there, Feds are weaponizing bank crisis to try to kill crypto, okay, according to a Minnesota Republican. Yeah, well, you know what? The Feds have much bigger problems. Trust me. FTX influencers face $1 billion class action lawsuit. Okay. So it looks like YouTube influencers about FTX, okay, are going to court. Scary, right? Everybody looking for something to blame, okay? When the blame doesn't necessarily lie with the influencers unless the influencers were on the take from FTX like everyone else. Okay, let's welcome who we got on the stream before I launch into this. And man, am I going to launch into this. All right, who's here? That old Twitter thing. Who's still here? Okay, Oliver Thomas, a supporter since the first show. King says he's on the Avalanche and Cardano train. Not bad ideas. Not bad ideas. Kim Craig, FOMO in, is DeFi too unpredictable? DeFi is not too unpredictable. You have to be careful about the relationship between altcoins and Bitcoin. We'll go into that. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got. Shizzy is here. Welcome. Huckleberry Native. Q-Boyd. Welcome. Okay. I can't pronounce it, but the last part is decrypt. Welcome. Gabrielle from Mexico. Crypto Future says Gensler is going rogue. BitBoy Al is here. King. Rugby Performance Lab. Bart. JG still bullish on audience. Conceptually, yes. Practically, you have to read the charts near term and not by strength in any of these small altcoins. Andre Britt says biggest crash ever incoming. And Aiken giving me some Notorious love. Okay. Let's talk about our friends at the European Central Bank. So, what do you do in a crisis? Well, the whole banking system is about to blow up. I don't know. It really isn't much more complicated than that. Everybody's trying to tell you to calm down, that everything is fine, which anybody who went through the crypto crisis last year should know that's total bunk. Let me say that again. That's total bunk, particularly when it's coming from like the executive branch of the government. So naturally, in order to make it look like everything is fine, you just keep hiking rates and make liquidity tighter. Meanwhile, they got to be printing money underneath the table, but you still can't make financial conditions tighter. But, the ECB is like, hey, let's hike rates. Okay. So here's what happened the last time the ECB hiked rates in the middle of a calamity. This is NASDAQ Composite, okay, which includes big tech and internet stocks back in 2000. So here we are in March, and, central banks are tightening because, speculation and froth is out of control. I'm okay with that, right? So they go in March, they go in April, right? They went twice in March, right? They went in June, okay? Then they went in October. Folks, it already went down, went up, and collapsed already. Like, this was a full-on crisis at this point. Like, this is just getting hammered. And they're like, you know what? Let's throw in one for good measure. And then boom. It was straight down. I was at Morgan Stanley at the time. We couldn't believe what was happening in December. And we found out later that NASDAQ went down 25% in like 2 months or less because Fidelity reduced its technology holdings by 2%. Okay. Like, when they did this, that was like the end. They just broke everything. And it's amazing that it's the ECB who does it. It's not the Fed, it's them. They love to throw in one for good measure. And the goofballs, the out of consensus goofballs at JP Morgan, thinks the Fed should try to do the same thing, act as if everything is all right by hiking rates next week. Well, have fun with that, boys. Seriously, go for it. You guys are trying to kill crypto, but with your behavior, this could be the biggest display of crypto fireworks ever. Not to mention what could happen in gold. So here's what we get when the ECB gets too cute. Okay. We might as well cover this while we're at it. Where is Bitcoin going at the end of 2023? Like, in other words, if money comes out of U.S. deposits, how much of that can go into Bitcoin, and what could that do to the price of Bitcoin? It's as simple as that, right? So we asked ChatGPT, let's assume that 10% of the $17 trillion in uninsured deposits in the United States flows into Bitcoin over the next 9 months. That means $1.7 trillion worth of crypto would have to be bought in this period. Okay, so ChatGPT does this really, really funny thing, is that it converts that huge number that would come out into the number of Bitcoins that would need to be bought. So assuming Bitcoin's at 24K, you'd have to buy, right, a theoretical number of 70.83 Bitcoins, okay, which is really interesting because there's only 21 million in circulation. Okay. So here it is again. If the price of Bitcoin on March 15th is 24K and we need 70 million Bitcoin, but there's really only 21 million Bitcoin in existence and probably only 4 million Bitcoin available for trading, the computer assumes 1,000% growth rate, and that is its upward target for Bitcoin, 264K. Crazy, right? Okay, here's more crazy. So this is the worst case. Okay, over the next 9 months, if no one wants Bitcoin, based on this scenario, it comes up with 18K, which is interesting, right? Your downside is 18K. Okay, your upside, okay, they use an average growth rate of 250%. So in other words, if $1.7 trillion comes out of the US banking system and into Bitcoin, you get a 250% rate of growth over a 9-month period of time, and you get 84K. You know, this was done by a computer. So I like ChatGPT, right? So once upon a time, I went to graduate school, and something like this would be like a semester thesis. You'd spend an entire 3-month period of time trying to figure this out. And this took like an hour. So I'm coming up with a target of 84. I had another query that came up with like 48. Now, without getting hung up on the 84 level, I think the most important thing is to think about how fast could Bitcoin go up? How fast could crypto go up in general? Or how much farther and faster can Bitcoin go up versus altcoins? To state the obvious, you have to pay your taxes. Pro Bitcoin Solutions does Bitcoin forensics, meaning they help people find Bitcoin that they've lost, and they're in the tax game. They're offering you $20 per token for the discounted link below, and $149 for a report that you can hand to an accountant along with a CSV Excel file. It states, to state the incredible obvious point, not only do you have to pay your taxes, but the sooner you get money out of a bank and over to the IRS, the better off you are. So it's like, hurry up, pay your debts, and pay your taxes. Okay, here is NASDAQ once again from the ECB, the big chart version. Just so you know, here's the ChatGPT work showing February, March, April, June, and October tightenings, and then boom. Crisis moves in gold. When has gold moved off a crisis? Well, here's something. In August of 2011, gold prices reached a high of 1,900 amid high debt levels, sovereign debt crises, and political gridlock in the US and Europe. This was shortly after Standard & Poor's downgraded the US credit rating for the first time in history in August of 2011. And I have, if the price of gold is above 1,888, there could be a new high to 2,100, and I think it could go beyond that. Then we get to find out what happens when the price of gold goes up so hard and so fast with Bitcoin that so many people want to take delivery of physical gold that some sort of default happens, which could affect big banks. Just a reminder, as if you're slowly getting this based on what's going on with that TikTok. This is not over in a day. It's not over in a week, and it's not over in a month. This, in my opinion, is the next mega parabolic along with Bitcoin. Now, this is from a couple of days ago. Here is a number called credit default swaps. This number, the higher it goes, the higher the risk of default. It's like insurance. So this was the USA downgrade back in 2011 where people were worried that the government was going to default. Laughably, here is the Lehman crisis, which doesn't even look like a crisis here. And here's the new high in credit default swaps for Uncle Sam. Everyone's talking about Silicon Valley Bank. Excellent. Let them. I'm talking about bigger banks, and I'm talking about the governments being in trouble. The central banks, the treasuries. Like, this problem is too big for them to solve. And even if they could solve it, I'm worried that they could blow up. So if you want to know why I'm talking about Bitcoin and gold and why WendyO is out buying canned food or loading up on extra food, paying her house off, I watched her show. I've been watching it for like 2 weeks. That's why. Bitcoin from 2011. Little historical trivia. We're going to be heavy on that today. Did you know that there was a dip in March in Bitcoin in 2011? And that was the last dip before this went from 66 cents to 30 bucks. And a lot of people think that Bitcoin can no longer move like this, that Bitcoin is boomer coin. Okay, well, that might be true. But if every boomer, if 1.7 trillion boomers decide that they want Bitcoin, do not doubt how this thing can move, because I don't think Bitcoin is very liquid. There's a lot of Bitcoin, thanks to FTX, that's been drained off exchanges. The people who bought Bitcoin, they're not selling it. So who's left to sell Bitcoin if the 800-pound gorilla comes in? And is this type of price action possible even if the percentage return isn't? Astrological research. So the good news is about ChatGPT is that I am no longer confounded by astrology jargon that I'd have to spend my whole life studying. So there's something going on up in the stars called Mercury, Neptune, and Sun at 25 parsecs in partial square to Mars. I don't know what that means, but I have heard it means something very big could happen. And it turns out ChatGPT says it's a rare and complex alignment. It may indicate confusion, uncertainty, overwhelm, deception, or illusion. Deception or illusion. Like this banking system crisis is bigger than Silicon Valley Bank. So quit reading the newspaper. Okay? It may inspire creativity. It may signify a breakthrough or revelation of some kind, of some hidden truth or secret, especially related to technology, science, or innovation. The hidden secret, like everybody's got to buy crypto. Like everybody's got to buy crypto, right? I didn't get this in some astrology parlor. This doesn't come from some weirdo. This comes from ChatGPT 4, right? So what's the bottom line? Act, act, act. Everybody is on YouTube going, well, I don't want to make anybody upset. Or listen. This is not about upset or not upset. This is about acting. Every day, what can I do if this gets worse? What can I do? Cash, food, grocery store gift cards, Bitcoins, portfolio adjustments. Like, for example, equities. Okay, they've been okay so far. Will they stay okay? Is it time to look at the 401k? Is it time to go to your 401k and look at what kind of money market funds or corporate bonds are inside mutual funds? Don't get caught sleeping. March 16th, in Gann's book, A Tunnel Through the Air, which is a novel written almost exclusively in code, is now no longer in code because I got ChatGPT 4. Check this out. Another clue from the novel on the page 322. Gann says he knew that the astrological alignment we just talked about on March 16th would be important for him to act. That's a quote from Gann. March 16th, certain planetary alignment act. This passage seems to match. However, it's not clear what Gann's talking about. Perhaps it was implying some type of trade or investment opportunity related to this alignment. Okay? Leadership and teamwork, action versus introspection. Get off your ass and do what you have to do to survive something bad. Is it scary? Yeah. Am I losing sleep? Yeah. Don't worry about that. Don't. And if there's a trading and investment opportunity, I probably don't have to tell you what that might be, because this show is for entertainment, not investment advice. Now, switching gears from Gann and ChatGPT to good old-fashioned charts, I know many of you will be relieved. How about the bigger the base, the higher in the space? How about it? Right? Bitcoin has been in the base between 16 and 24 since June of last year. So Bitcoin went straight down starting in March of 2022. Interesting. Straight down, base. Now it's trying to pop out of the base, and I don't see any reason why this thing just can't go whoop, 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 right back to 48K. Right? In other words, this could have been a top. You could have argued that this was a top. I put out a really stupid video about that level because I was like, oh no, there is Elliott wave work suggesting blah, 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 blah. That was before I got ChatGPT 4. That was before I got that. This is probably the bigger the base, the higher in the space. Or let's do it this way. You have to think in your head, if this is the bigger the base, the higher in the space, what am I going to do? Like, what are the implications for my portfolio if Bitcoin goes to 48K? What are the implications for the world if Bitcoin goes to 48K? Like, what happens if this is like a lurch up, a return back to 26, and then a much broader move after a dip? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what happens if this thing really does take off? Okay. Now, Williams Awesome Oscillator on the Bitcoin 2-day chart is basically on top of zero, which means this thing could be getting ready to launch itself. Okay, we've covered the ChatGPT 84K theory. It doesn't have to go to 84K. Should Bitcoin be at 24K based on this research? I have to leave that in your capable hands. Ethereum. Interesting. We were talking about DeMark yesterday. So frequently what you get in DeMark is they count a certain set of conditions. So DeMark was a quant technical analyst back in the 80s when there weren't any quant technical analysts. So you'll have a candle and it'll represent a complicated set of conditions. Like if the high is higher than the high 2 days ago, we'll get a number one. Okay. And then if those conditions are present the next day, we'll get a number two. And then the way this happens is when a trend is in this initial phase, typically you like to buy the dip on the 4, and then you get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is a daily chart. ETH is holding support at 1650. I haven't forgotten about ETH. I think that there is a lot of research that shows Bitcoin could dramatically outperform ETH. Okay, there's a diamond formation on the Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart, right? Scary AF. But, you know, I'm not saying that ETH or alts can't go with Bitcoin. I am saying that if there is a down move in risk assets, Bitcoin may hold up while everything else just gets really hammered. So you could have multiple events going on in rotation. You could have huge moves up in Bitcoin, alts follow, but then get smacked. Bitcoin then rushes up. Altcoins maybe follow a little bit, but lower highs. Portfolio adjustments. The dollar. Okay, I'm basically looking for any reason to sell it. I mean, if anything, this thing where the ECB raises rates when they know the Fed can't do it is like euro positive, dollar negative. Now, I know in the end of the world scenarios, everyone buys the dollar. But my argument is the dollar going down, the Fed having problems, and the U.S. banking system essentially unfixable, right? Like all the assets in the banking system, all the stocks, all the bonds of the banks, they have to be completely re-auctioned by the market. The market has to say, okay, got all these problems. They can't bail everybody out. They can't print 17 trillion to make every depositor whole. So we're just going to have to rearrange everything, including the value of the dollar. So my argument is if the dollar is below, DXY is below 104.40, it can go to 102.60. I actually think the dollar index is going a lot lower than that, but we'll go with that for now for technical analysis purposes. Now, which bank stock should you be looking at? All the headlines are like First Republic, Credit Suisse, or Credit Swiss cheese, as one influencer calls it, right? Kind of almost making fun of it all, which is good. Because the level you should be looking at is in Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab used to work there. Great company. Look it up. Every year they win best broker, like JD Power and Associates. Like you walk into a Schwab branch, there's like 8 trophies on the counter, like 8 years in a row. Everything at Schwab is free. The service is unbelievable at every level. And the way they deliver that service is by running the place as an interest rate hedge fund, right? They don't pay you much on your deposits, and they loan that money out and get a better return on it, which is why Schwab hasn't really performed well lately. And recently has just blown out and given back all the gains it's made in quite some time. Now, the key level is 60. So I have a Schwab theory. If Schwab is a proxy for what's really going on in the banking system and for the pulse of how retail is going to react, like, do you think the people who trade and invest at Schwab don't know where Schwab stock is? Oh, hell yeah, they do. Oh, yeah, they do. So if Schwab stock's okay, the market's okay. All right, fine. Cool. Okay, if Schwab stock's not okay, or these bank stocks really start coming unglued, keeping in mind that Joe Biden says if you have a problem with your bank, we'll come in and fix you, but we own your bank. As in stockholders wiped out, management out, bondholders out, everybody out, we own it. Schwab can't get back above the old floor. 2018, $60. 2022, $60. Schwab cannot get back above $60. This market is in trouble. It's in trouble. You're going to need a barometer somewhere. That's my barometer for the moment. And you know what? Barometers can change from day to day. That's my pick. Again, 1888 in gold, 2136 possible. GDX, gold mining shares. I know, boring, right? Yeah, maybe not though, right? Remember how you're supposed to like maybe grab it when they get to the 4? Okay, coming back to retest this old high, right? Algos selling gold stocks off this idiotic ECB tightening mode. People, think about it. If you needed massive quantities of gold and Bitcoin, what would you do? Well, you'd have to take over Grayscale. They have 600,000 Bitcoin. You'd have to take over MicroStrategy. They have a lot of Bitcoin. Or you'd have to take over a gold or silver mining company. Speaking of silver mining, AG with a nice 9 bottom. Okay. This could be, and also a 4-wave bottom. And if it made a 5-wave new high, you could be talking about $25 a share. It's now at $6. Where is Bitcoin going to be and Ethereum going to be if silver mining stocks go from 6 to 25? Got the earthquake in New Zealand. I've been talking about eclipses that are coming up in April and how they can wreak absolute total havoc. Every crash, every financial panic, every Fed policy over-tightening has been met with the type of eclipse we are going to see in April. Whatever is going on here, it's not over. You got to get ready and you got to take advantage, because if Bitcoin does rally off of this somewhere, you got to take advantage of that. I'm hoping it's not later. I'm kind of hoping for a little bit of oomph sooner, but I'm starting to do research about what can happen and when it can happen. Saw this from my friend Andy. The Fed's operating loss becomes taxpayer losses. The Fed's operating loss right now for the year, as of this being reported in February, is $80 billion. Okay, with negative capital of $38 billion. If interest rates stay at their current level or higher, the Fed's operating losses will impact the federal budget for several years, requiring new tax revenues to offset the continuing loss of billions of dollars in former Fed remittances to the Treasury. So for everybody who thinks the Fed's going to keep hiking rates, they hike rates, they blow themselves up. They blow up the Treasury, they blow up the dollar. So Jerome and JP Morgan and all these Fed hawktards, have fun with this, right? If this doesn't scream Bitcoin and crypto, I don't know what does. Meanwhile, back at the equities ranch, S&P futures at 4,000. Well, I can definitely associate with people not wanting to be in bank accounts and wanting to be in equities. I can also appreciate that a recession is probably going to happen very soon and be very sharp. Oil has collapsed, and I don't know that FOMOing into any type of stock at S&P 4,000 makes any sense. You may wind up at 3,700 if equities fail at 4,000. If the Fed hikes rates, my bluster aside, if they hike rates, they want to try to kill crypto, they want to try to kill gold, and believe it or not, they actually want to try to kill stocks. If they hike rates in this environment to try to pretend everything is business as usual, they're saying they want stocks down. That's the only rationalization I can think of for what they're doing. Is to say, we have to crack equities. Now, that's insane. And by acting as if everything is all right, they're telling you it's not. So they're kind of hosed either way. They come out and say, we're going to hold steady. We don't want any more problems. That lets you know it's a big problem. They try to act as if it's business as usual. In my mind, that's worse. That's worse. Because it makes them harder for backtrack and for them to cut the discount rate, which is the rate for emergency loans between the Fed and other banks. MATIC, altcoins. Okay, so do you love MATIC or do you hate MATIC? Well, MATIC certainly makes NFT trading easier and cheaper. I get that. I've been on both sides of this, so I paid $20 in gas the other day to buy a $16 NFT. So I get why people would want MATIC. Problem is, when I went to sell my MATIC-based NFT, I did not have a good experience. So if there's Arbitrum out there, there's layer 2 solutions. I get why people would like that. I just don't think you buy it now. Speculative assets in this environment can get wasted. They can get wasted. Now, I'm not picking on MATIC. I think if altcoins do okay, MATIC, Ethereum, and Avalanche will be the ones that can do well, right? Maybe even Solana because of the speed and no-fee nature of it. But people, do not make the mistake of being long altcoins to the gills in this type of wacko scenario, particularly with charts, GAN, bigger the base, the higher in the space. F around and find out. Adjust your portfolio if you need to. It's not investment advice. It's common sense based on the read that we're experiencing right now. Farmer Sam Forrest is here. Welcome. Right? We have somebody from Houston, Texas. Big love from New Zealand. Okay. And that is the market update. Somebody said pay your taxes and help the Fed. Big Rich likes GDXJ better. All right. Cryptomatic says, people have to understand the Federal Reserve is a bank too. Love it. Wish I had said that, right? Bart Hendricks thinks macro gold is going to 2,700. El Siglo says Deutsche Bank has 100x more dirt under the carpet than Credit Suisse. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Whatever the media is fixated on, the problem is actually over here. The problem is actually over here. Okay. Okay. D is asking me and saying she's got about 10% Bitcoin more you think. Well, D, I can't give you investment advice. I took half of what was in my bank account and FOMO'd into BTC 2 days ago with half of my operating cash. Okay. Rudy is going to go shopping when Solana goes to 5,000. All right. It's Daniel J's birthday, a loyal viewer. Daniel, happy birthday. Okay. Rave Song Record says, I made it. Just how big is this crisis? With an emoji of somebody covering their face with their hands. Well, folks, that's just it. We don't know how big the crisis is. We just know that it's big. Now, rather than focus on the crisis, you got to focus on where the opportunity is. The opportunity is in Bitcoin, gold, maybe Ethereum, and an adjustment of your asset allocation. So in case this turns into something stupid, you're not wrecked. Okay. AAM says 2 trillion of QE incoming. That's probably like the minimum. I think they're going back to 85 billion a day. I mean, they may be going back to 85 billion for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but I mean, there's no way massive QE is not coming, but they may let it all get wrecked first. So I gave Jerome Powell a hard time. Jerome Powell may be happy with all this. Maybe he wants it all to get wrecked. They may want that. Well, U.S. depositors aren't going to sit around and get wrecked. Like, okay, Jerome, well, if you want to have this plan and take down the stock market or whatever it is you want to do, that's nice, but I may not be able to get the money out of the bank. People are like, I don't want to say anything that causes a bank run. I don't want to say anything that causes a bank run either, but I don't want my viewers to get killed. For God's sakes. I mean, 2 days ago, I walked into Wells Fargo at 9 a.m. expecting it to look like, I don't know, the beer line at Yankee Stadium in the 6th inning, and there's nobody there. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. I'm making jokes with the guy behind the counter. Like, yeah, how you doing, man? He's like, hey, you're back again. It's like, yeah. Doesn't look like anyone's figured it out yet. He's like, yeah. Still got 50s and 100s? He's like, yeah. I'll take those. It's not investment advice to say get 50s or 100s if you can, is it? I don't know. Not trying to cause a bank run, people. I don't have to apologize on the air. My following's not that big. And even if it was, I'm still not apologizing. Right? Last I looked, right? Every human being on the planet has a right to self-defense. Right? Now, self-defense can take a variety of angles. There's a variety of ways. Protect yourself. Protect yourself. Okay? King looking for DeMark work. Okay. Okay, going to tactical Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, so nothing going on here on the 90-minute chart of Bitcoin. Like nothing. We're just like sitting here. Okay, 23% retracement is at 24,000. Okay, when I go to ETH on the daily chart, I like the fact that there's support on top of this DeMark level. Okay, Bitcoin held its DeMark level yesterday on that 4 dip around 24K. And this is just like steam coming out of the bottom of the space shuttle. Okay, Avalanche, just looking at a daily chart. Okay, real support's down at 1370. Okay, obviously people are buying anything that they can get here under 14, which is interesting, right? Somewhere in here, somebody's going to pick an altcoin that they like. Interesting that those candlesticks would be appearing in Avalanche. Okay, but I'm not seeing any bullish DeMark work or bearish, you know, but this does not look like, oh yeah, you got to buy this like right now type of thing. MATIC on a 90-minute chart, again, you know, this is kind of like a dead cattish bounce. Okay, and there's serious resistance at 125. So this corrective action in MATIC, so this was the FOMO top. This could be A, B, and C down to 74 cents. So, I mean, if you got a rally up in Bitcoin and then a retest back down, you know, alts may never get the rally and may get hammered on the downside. Specifically in MATIC, you know, between $1.13 and $1.25, that's resistance. Supports at 75 cents. Okay, Megan says, who watches the Yankees? Boston Red Sox fan here. Megan, you are such a loyal viewer. I will say it on the air. Go Red Sox. Even though we all knew where I grew up. But for Megan, we'll say go Red Sox. Brian wants to know about SHIB. Down to South by Southwest to see a SHIB metaverse display. I was like, wow, this is going to be an unbelievable display of all things SHIB. It was like a teenager sitting in a chair, playing a video game, grabbing little SHIB coins. It looked like Nintendo. It was like, this does not look like the SHIB metaverse. Okay, so SHIB daily, not a lot going on here. There's a lot of SHIB FUD out there. It looks like people want to buy the FUD on the 4-hour chart, right? Support is where it was on March 12th. Big Rich is an Atlanta Braves fan. Okay, I got to get over to my next stream. Folks, that's the market update for today. Portfolio adjustments. We'll see you tomorrow.